Trucker Dump, episode 168. In this week's show, we discuss more about AB5, drug testing, overtime pay, Tesla trucks, 60-foot trailers, new trucking services, apps, and truck stops, and unfortunately, a crap ton of recalls. On the plus side, trucker pay has gone up. So, there's that. In the feedback section, listeners have follow-up on the rising Pennsylvania toll rates and the new parking program and the ParkUnload app. This episode of Trucker Dump is sponsored by Porter Freight Funding. You can learn more at porterfreightfunding.com/truckerdump.
Welcome to Trucker Dump, where you'll get one driver's insights and sometimes humorous views of truck driving and the trucking industry, and pretty much anything else he feels like dumping on you. This podcast is brought to you by AboutTruckDriving.com, resources to help you understand the world of truck driving through the use of stories and a pathetic attempt at humor.
Howdy-ho, fellow truckers, and, well, I guess non-truckers, because we do have some non-truckers who listen to the show. Appreciate you, as well as the truckers. Everybody listens to the show. I love you dearly. So, my name is Todd McCann. I'll be your host. I am a 25-year truck driver. I did about 22 years of those over the road. Some of that solo, some of that teaming with the evil overlord, who is my wife of 20, I better get this right, 28 years? Yeah, let's go with that. And, by the way, she knows and accepts that name because she knows it's true. As I was saying, the last 3 years have been LTL, and I'm loving that job right now. I am also the author of 2 trucking ebooks. One is called How to Find a Great Truck Driving Job, and the other is called Trucking Life, which includes a 9.25-hour audiobook if you're interested in listening to my drab voice for 9.25 hours. You can find both those at abouttruckdriving.com. For the ebook combo pack, that's 25% off, only $14.98. Or you can find those books individually anywhere you buy your ebooks. Amazon, Apple Books, wherever. Barnes & Noble, any place you look, you're going to find them. Well, not under a rock or anything, but any place you buy ebooks. All right, so I guess we should just get on with the show. Oh, no, wait. I wanted to discuss something with you first. You know, I was having a conversation with my friend driver Chris Mack, and we were talking about hazmat. And he drives for a reefer company and doesn't haul very much hazmat, so he does not have a hazmat endorsement. And somehow or another, we got off on the subject of him hauling hazmat. And I was like, well, how can you do that if you don't have a hazmat endorsement? And he said, well, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that's allowed because, you know, our company wouldn't let us do it. And, you know, if it wasn't legal. And I thought, yeah, that's a pretty good point because as I mentioned before, Chris drives for Prime and they are an enormous company, you know, and now if it was a little fly by night shady one, I might think, you know, an owner might tell a driver that he could get away with that. But, you know, a big company like Prime, I don't think they're going to be messing around like that. But I was surprised by this, and I thought, I don't think that's right. And, of course, I told Chris that because, you know, I like to prove Chris wrong. Who doesn't? So, anyway, I did some research on this, and dadgummit, Chris is right. I hate that, but he's right. Apparently, I did not know this. The only time you need a hazmat endorsement is when it is a placarded load. So anything that is not placarded, meaning, you know, it can't be a table 1, like anything super, anything needs a placard, you know, explosives, dangerous when wet, things like that, or just if there isn't enough weight to warrant a placard. Any of those loads can be hauled by someone without a hazmat endorsement. Blew my freaking mind. So, you know, here I am, as I've spoken about on the podcast here in the past, that, you know, with my company, my current company has not been great at hazmat. And, you know, I've been on kind of a crusade to fix that and everything. And I kind of pride myself on knowing quite a bit about hazmat. And what do you know? I get schooled by a guy who doesn't even have a hazmat license. Who knew? But anyway, I just thought that was a little bit of neat information for you there. So now you can pass that on, maybe win a $20 bar bet, at some trucker bar somewhere. Are there such thing as trucker bars anymore? I don't know. So anyway, there's your little bit of trivia for the day. Not that you needed any trivia or even ask for it, but you get it anyway, because that's how we roll here on the Trucker Dump Podcast. Oh, and since I mentioned, my company being bad at hazmat and the crusade I've been on to try to fix it, I think it's actually had some positive impacts. They've released a new phone number that people can call and report hazmat issues here at the company, within the company. So that's awesome. I don't know if they're actually looking at those or not, but things seem to be getting better. I do know that phone number is just a voicemail, basically. So, you never know. Sometimes that's just a dead end, but it seems to actually be getting better here. I've not had near as many hazmat issues as I have in the past. So thank God they're finally taking it seriously. I guess the lesson you can learn from that is sometimes it does pay to be a major pain in the butt. All right. Well, enough of that. Let's get on with the show. And we'll do that by playing that cool little electronic sound that gets the news started. Okay, I have to admit here that I have been a little out of sorts lately, and that's because, well, we haven't started off a show with a recall in a while. So let's correct that problem, if that's actually a problem. Yes, recalls are boring. I get it. But if this affects you, well, safety. So this one involves that steering gear recall. It happened for some other brands. I don't remember which ones, honestly, but it was affecting a lot of them. This is the one with the steering gears were fracturing. Apparently, it says they were assembled with fewer than the required number of recirculating balls, which can lead to a fracture in the steering gear, worm shaft, and loss of vehicle steering. So this one, I guess I should tell you, is actually for 47,000 Kenworth and Peterbilt trucks. Pretty much, well, there's a lot of model numbers here listed. Anywhere from 2022 to 2023 Kenworths and Peterbilts. Just assume that you're going to have this problem. Now, if your truck is affected by this recall, you will be contacted by either Kenworth or Peterbilt, or you can just go right here to the link in the show notes and check out all the recall number and all that stuff. Expect to see that notice in your mail starting September 26th, or you can get a jump on this ahead of time. They say they will inspect the steering gear serial numbers, and they will replace them if they need to be, free of charge. Cool. So make sure you get that fixed because, well, steering is important. Head on over to overdriveonline.com for all the details on this recall. And hopefully that will be the last one in this episode. Hopefully. Well, no surprise here, but just a day after I recorded the last recall, another one popped up. Yep, this one infects 1,400 Daimler trucks for an unexpected engine shutdown risk. This affects Freightliners and Western Stars. And they do expect that every single one of these is going to have the problem. 100% of them will have this problem. It says the recall was issued due to a defect within the engine's control module, which may experience an internal short circuit. This could lead to an unexpected engine shutdown and increase the risk of a crash. In the past, I'd say, maybe not, because in the past, if your engine shut off for whatever reason, you could just kind of keep on coasting along, lights would work and all that stuff. But guess what? These new modern trucks cannot operate diddly squat without these computers. So I don't know exactly how bad this is going to be if your engine shuts off. But I know, for instance, the Peterbilt that I drive has a known issue where they have a shortened battery cable. I think I may have mentioned this on the show before, but it's a shortened battery cable and it will eventually come loose. And if they'd have just cut the thing 2 inches longer, it would have been fine, but it's pretty tight in there. And when that thing breaks off, it shuts down. The truck just goes dead. All the lights go dead. Nothing works. You're just sitting on the side of the road blind. You better get those triangles out real freaking fast. Now, it looks like all of these are 2023 models, and most of you probably won't be affected by most of these. I don't recognize even most of these models, honestly, but the Cascadia is included in that. It doesn't say exactly how many of those, and Western Star 4700, and then 49X and 47X vehicles, so I don't recognize any of those either. That 4700 is an over-the-road truck, I'm pretty sure on that, but, hey, if you are affected by this, you might want to head on over here to cdllife.com. I believe I forgot to mention that earlier. If you are affected by this recall, you will be getting a letter starting on September 26th, which I think was the date of the last recall, wasn't it? Anyway, they do not have a fix for this yet, but they're currently working on it. So, well, I guess they got till September 26th. Anyway, all the details for this is over here at cdllife.com. Now, hopefully, that will be the last recall for this week. Nope, this recall popped up on Friday afternoon, so hopefully this will be the last one. Navistar recalling more than 8,000 Lone Star and LT trucks. Found this one on landline.media for all of the details on the recall number and phone numbers and all that stuff. Basically what this is 2018 through 2021 Lone Stars and 2016 through 21 International LTs. The cable that connects the batteries to the vehicle frame may become excessively hot and in some cases cause battery post separation. And as I just spoke about in the last recall, apparently nowadays, if a battery cable breaks, it can stall the engine out completely. And we don't want that now, do we? Now, of the 8,000 trucks listed, only about 260 of those are the Lone Star versions. The rest of them are all LT trucks, which is the most popular, international by far, I think. And Navistar does expect 100% of this population named in this recall to be affected by the issue. So you're going to want to get this fixed pretty darn quick. And just like the last couple of recalls, it looks like they're going to be mailing out notifications to owners on September 26th. Man, sounds like the U.S. Postal Service better make darn sure they're fully staffed on September 26th. For all the details on this recall, head on over to landlinemedia.com, click a link right there in the show notes. And I swear to God, this is the last one for the day. Even if another one pops up, I am not going to talk about it until next week. Okay, onward. Hey, you remember that Tesla semi truck that was coming out? It's been, announced quite a few years ago, actually. And, we just figured it would be a while before it came to market. Actually, Elon Musk, the owner of Tesla, had a statement earlier this year that said that there would be no new models for 2022, and he implied that the semi trucks would not be coming out until 2023 sometime. Well, he has revamped that. He tweeted recently. Now, this is not an official statement, but he tweeted the other day that we could be seeing these new Tesla semis out on the road by the end of this year. By the way, I found this article on landline.media. Now, I knew about the one version of the Tesla Semi that they had that was expected to have a 500-mile range, but apparently there's going to be two models. One is smaller. It's going to be capable of I don't know if it's smaller, but it has less range. Yeah, I don't think it's smaller. Just has less range of 300 miles. Now, here's the surprising thing. If I remember correctly, in the very beginning, they were estimating this truck was going to cost like $350,000 or something. Really something crazy that would be, just only the biggest companies would be able to buy a couple of them and experiment with them. Well, guess what? When they come out, the 300-mile range model is expected to come in at about $150,000, and the 500-mile version is about $180,000. Yes, that is more expensive than a diesel-powered truck nowadays, but not that crazy, and certainly not $350,000 or $320,000, whatever it was back then. So anyway, I just thought I would give you a heads up that, keep your eyes peeled. You might be seeing some of these really funky looking Tesla semis by the end of this year. Landline.media for that one. Well, now, here is a topic we haven't talked about in many moons. Walmart rolls out first of its kind 60-foot multi-temp reefer trailer. Found this one on CDLLife.com. Yeah, you remember a while back, there was a lot of talk about adding, length to our current trailers, because you would be able to haul more freight with one load. But there was issues with, weight, that would increase the weight, of course. Of course, that would change the bridge laws and things like that. And, if it's a heavy product, you just wouldn't be able to really, fill it full anyway. But if it's something light, sure, you can get more stuff on there. For instance, they say the average 53-foot trailer will hold about 26 pallets, but this 60-footer can hold about 30 pallets. They also note that this is a reefer trailer and it has dual temperatures. So because it's so big, they can put different temperatures in different parts of the trailer. That's an interesting idea. Of course, Walmart and the government and everybody involved in this is talking about, that this is a way to reduce the amount of trucks on the road and move more freight all at the same time. Another thing to point out is this is not taking place in the USA right now. This is only in Canada, as far as I can tell here. It looks like they have had a pilot program going up there trying, since like 2012, hauling these 60-footers around. So, any Canadians up there are probably, used to seeing these, and it's not going to be any big deal for them to have more of them on the road. So with that being said, I'm interested to hear from any Canadian driver who has pulled one of these 60-footers. I guess that would mean you'd have to work for Walmart or, maybe somebody who's pulling a Walmart trailer. I guess that might happen. I don't know how much that happens in Canada. I know that happens quite a bit down here in the States, although Walmart has said they want to reduce the amount of, purchase transport that they use, farming out their loads to they want to do it as much of it in-house as possible. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Not much more to say about this really, except for, keep your eyes peeled for 60-foot trailers up in Canada. And, hey, maybe they're coming to the States sometime soon. I have not heard anything new on that in quite some time. But now that Canada looks like they're going to be going for it, full time, I don't know. You know what? I'm sitting here looking at this photo at CDLLife.com, and that is a triple axle trailer. So that is how they are combating the extra weight. I guess they could do that in the States pretty easily. I mean, anybody who's traveling in Michigan knows how many axles you can put on a trailer, right? About 1 billion? Something like that. Man, I would not want that tire bill. Anyway, if you want to check out the photos of this trailer, just looks like a normal trailer, normal triple axle trailer, I should say. Can't really tell it's that much longer, honestly, in the pictures. But if you're interested in this article, head over to CDLLife.com. I've said before in the past that I probably look at the trucking news and keep tabs of all of it more than the average trucker because, well, I do a podcast, right? Well, this is why it's so amazing to me that I didn't even know this feature existed, and especially since I am a customer already. So what am I talking about here? Well, I found this on overdriveonline.com. Don't really have a lot to say about it. It's just that it surprised me that this exists. There's something called Verizon Connect. Now, I know somebody is sitting out there right now going, yeah, you moron. It's been around for a long time. Well, I didn't know that. Yeah, that's the whole point. But anyway, so Verizon Connect is actually, doesn't have anything to do with you except for if your company is using it. Basically, companies can use this to track their fleet, to help manage and dispatch and, just be more efficient in all their comings and goings in their business. Again, can't believe I didn't know this. I've been a Verizon fan for a long time. Very strange. But anyway, the whole story revolves around the fact that DriveWise has been integrated into Verizon Connect also. So if you're already using Verizon Connect through your company, they're probably tracking your vehicle and stuff through the phone that they've given you, or, maybe even the e-log device they've given you, depending on, if it's a Verizon unit or not. But anyway, we're talking about DriveWise here. We've mentioned them in the past. They are one of these Waystation bypass services, kind of like PrePass. And, in the past, you've always been able to have this on your phone and just use your phone, and it would tell you if you were able to bypass a scale or not. Well, now they are connecting this directly into Verizon Connect. So that is maybe one less thing you'll have to handle on your personal phone if you are a customer of Verizon Connect. Now, again, this will have to be activated by the carrier who has the Verizon Connect account. But apparently, once it is and they turn it on, you'll be able to get bypass opportunities at more than 800 locations in 45 states and provinces. Again, no transponder to stick in your windshield or anything like that. It'll just be used right there in your smartphone or your tablet, whatever they have installed for you. And while your carrier is activating the DriveWise pre-clear system, they can also activate DriveWise safety notifications, which is a free service that comes along with it to provide safety notifications for high rollover areas, mountain corridors, and low bridges. Pretty cool. Now, I'll probably never see this. I'll probably never use it. But hey, if your company is already using, the company that you work for is using Verizon Connect, write in truckerdump@gmail.com and tell me what your experience with it is. If it's, is it in your face, or is it kind of like just off in the corner minding its own business, doing its thing? Just kind of curious how this all works. Again, truckerdump@gmail.com. Send me a little email or an audio clip would be awesome. Again, found this one on overdriveonline.com. And that's all I have to say about that, which was more than I figured it would be. Surprise, surprise. All right, this next one is on overdriveonline.com. And, well, okay. First off, I got to say, Porter Freight Funding is a sponsor, and they do a lot of the same things that DAT does. Everybody's heard of DAT, the Digital Load Board, DAT Freight and Analytics. But this story is on DAT, and they have a new app called DAT One. So it has all the features of DAT's load board for truckers, plus many other tools at no extra cost. Now, as I just said, Porter Freight Funding is a sponsor. DAT is not, but I feel like it would be a disservice if I didn't mention this to any of you who do use DAT, because this new DAT One app sounds like it is a integrated place for all kinds of stuff. It says you're going to be able to find loads no matter where they are, easily find truck stops, service stations, and rest areas, save in monthly fuel costs with the fuel highlight feature, post your truck with rates and understand market data so you can negotiate better and have more productive phone calls with brokers. You can also see credit scores and company reviews for brokers, and you can get paid within 24 hours with factoring options. So just so you have a heads up on this one, that if you are a DAT user, make sure you go over and download that new app. It is called DAT One. So anyway, check out the full article on overdriveonline.com. Hey, since we just mentioned factoring, I think now's a pretty good time to tell you about Porter Freight Funding. Before we even get to their factoring service, they also do stuff like brokering, dispatching, fuel cards, insurance, and they'll answer any questions you have about compliance. You can learn more by going to porterfreightfunding.com/truckerdump. Truckerdump's all one word. Or you can call 205-397-0934. So exactly what does a freight factoring company do? Well, they take bad customers off your hands. You know the ones, you do the job, they don't pay right away. Not cool. That's where Porter Freight Funding comes in. Once you have an account set up, which you can do by going to porterfreightfunding.com/truckerdump, you'll just deliver that load, submit your paperwork to Porter Freight Funding, and you'll get paid within 24 hours. Trust me on this one, life is far too short to waste your time on bad customers. Let Porter Freight Funding deal with it for you. So again, check them out at porterfreightfunding.com/truckerdump or call 205-397-0934. And thanks to Porter Freight Funding for sponsoring this episode of Trucker Dump. Oh yeah. Okay, depending on your interest in this topic, this may or may not require your attention. Found this one over on landline.media. U.S. DOT considers electronic forms for drug testing program. Yep, that's basically all this is. They are proposing that the old system is outdated, where they had to keep paper copies of everything related to drug and alcohol testing, and they're just saying, hey, we want to consider going to all electronic form. So, that goes for signatures and the forms that you fill out and all that stuff. Makes more sense, hey, the world is going digital. But anyway, they are wanting the public to provide feedback on what they say for possible advantages, risks, ramifications, and required safeguards associated with the use of electronic forms, signatures, and records in the drug testing program. So there's a list of questions here on this website, and you can check it out. And there is a link also to the place where you can actually go to the Federal Registry and submit your comments. I'll also have that link in the show notes, and I'll have the link to this article also. They posted this in the Federal Register on August the 5th, and it's going to be accepting comments through October 4th. So if you have any feedback on this whatsoever, head on over there, check out the link in the show notes, and let your voice be heard. Landlinemedia.com. All right, this next one over here on overdriveonline.com is more complicated than I am going to talk about here, so you might want to head on over here if you have interest in this sort of stuff. So, what we're talking about here is overtime pay for employee drivers, market benefits, and drawbacks. So, we've talked about this concept before, that way back in 1938, the Fair Labor Standards Act, or FLSA, required all American employers to pay workers overtime when their work weeks exceeded 40 hours. But of course, trucking companies were exempted from that for whatever reason. I'm not really sure, never really understood why that was, but apparently there is a new bill in Congress right now shooting through. It's H.R. 7517, and it was just introduced a couple of weeks ago, and they are trying to get, finally, truckers taken out of this Fair Labor Standards Act, take that exemption away. So we would be eligible for overtime also. Now, this is very, very popular among truckers. OIDA did a survey on this in 2020, and 69% of truckers that responded to this said that they would love for Congress to remove the trucking exemption from the FLSA. So, like I say, very popular. So according to this article, it looks like company employees would benefit from this far more than the owner-operator or the lease driver, which that makes sense because I guess if you're a lease or an owner-operator person, you don't really operate, on a pay scale like everybody else. There's no such thing as an hourly wage, so, not really going to affect them that much. But how much exactly it's going to affect drivers if they got this passed, like company drivers, it's up for debate, Apparently they're saying a lot of companies would probably just try to lower their wages to offset the overtime pay. So basically you'd be keeping the same, total earnings that you had every week. It'd just be different, like you get a little bit less hourly rate because they know they're going to be paying you some overtime on the end. Now that would not be popular among drivers. If you're driving at an hourly rate and then, say you're making, $30 an hour, and all of a sudden they say, well, we're going to have to start paying you $45 overtime pretty quick. So we're going to lower that wage to actually, $25 or $22 now or something like that. That is not going to be popular because drivers are just going to see right through that. Well, okay, you're lowering it, but this isn't helping me at all. That's not going to be very popular. And in today's day and age, you don't want to piss off drivers because they'll just go someplace else, right? We've learned that, if anything. Another thing companies could do is just start relying more on contractors, owner-operators or lease folks, so they don't have to pay that overtime. So that could actually take work away from company drivers. And that overall, in the long run, could actually lower the total number of company driving jobs. Another thing to consider is that any carrier that has employees, like company drivers, they're going to have to overhaul their entire systems for paying drivers and how to track their hours. Now, I will put a link, of course, to this article in the show notes, but also a link to a wage guide recommendation, like a formula that Washington State has figured out. apparently they don't even recognize the FLSA's motor carrier exemption, so they just have ignored it all this time. But they have a way to calculate overtime for drivers who are paid by the mile, which is a challenge because, I mean, if you're getting paid by the mile, when do you start charging for overtime? Because it's not likely you're going to have, over 40 hours sitting in a dock. So does that drive time go towards? Honestly, I don't know. And when I looked at this formula thing, it was way above my pay grade. Hey, I didn't mean that as a pun, but, pay grade, and we're talking about pay. Get it? Oh, gosh, I'm so funny. Anyway, you can check that out, link in the show notes, and tell me if you can make any rhyme or reason of it. But there is a formula depending on, whether you're paid by mileage or percentage or whatever. They're saying this is the way you figure it up. So I guess that could be a model, although I'm not really sure we want to model anything on what Washington State is doing. Do we? They're kind of like California when it comes to trucking. Another thing this article says that could happen from, more overtime is it could spur on the automation, the whole automated trucks thing, because it might put more money into automated trucks because now they're like, okay, we got to pay these truckers overtime. Wouldn't it be better just to buy some automated trucks and let them do the work, and then we don't have to pay a driver anymore? Automated trucks don't need overtime pay. But, as we've talked about here in the past, that is not anytime soon that is going to happen. They can put all the money they want into it, but, this thing's only going to go so fast. And right now, they're just really not looking like autonomous trucks are going to be able to take over the industry like so many have said. Wrongly said, I might point out. That's just my opinion, but I don't think they're coming to replace all of our jobs anytime soon. Okay, so there's all these negatives. But what about the positives? Well, the biggest positive both the government and this article seems to think is going to happen from this is if the carriers are going to have to pay overtime pay, then they are going to take this out on the shippers and the receivers who are causing all of this overtime to happen. They're saying basically they're going to be able to force the shippers and receivers into becoming more efficient at loading their trucks. Now, is that true or is that not? Who knows? They say there are a lot of companies right now who operate on an hourly basis, and it doesn't seem to be affecting their load times whatsoever. So apparently the shippers or receivers aren't going to be pushed into this. Now, that's on a smaller scale because, as we all know, most trucking companies, especially the over-the-road ones, are not paid on a hourly basis. They're paid on a per mile basis. So if you start adding those in, although a lot of those actually get some detention time too, usually it's after an hour or two that detention time starts. And again, that hasn't affected anything, but maybe they just start charging from the second they get there. Anyway, that whole part of that is just unclear on how much of a benefit this is going to be. Sure, if a company just leaves their wage the way it is, and they say, okay, from now on, anything over 40 hours, we're going to pay you double or time and a half, that would be wonderful. Talk about a big pay raise, because a lot of truckers are working out there, 70 hours a week, but they're getting paid flat rate for all those 70 hours. You add on time and a half for those last 30 hours, and yowza, talk about a pay raise. Problem is, most companies aren't going to want to do that. So anyway, like I said, there's more to this in this article if you want to check this out. Again, that's on overdriveonline.com. And a reminder, I will also include a link to that Washington, the Washington State formula for overtime pay. If you understand it, please shoot me an email at truckerdump@gmail.com and give me the gist of it. So anyway, to be continued. I'm sure this will take a long time to make any progress. Like I said, this is just a bill at this time. So, well, you know the way government moves. I might see this by the time I'm dead. Well, this next one is certainly good news, although pretty much all of us have experienced this already and know what's going on, but now we can put some numbers to it to quantify it. Found this one on CDLLife.com. Truck driver salary increased significantly in 2021, according to study. So this is called the 2022 ATA Driver Compensation Study. ATA is American Trucking Association. So as I mentioned before, the ATA is the organization that most of the large fleets are members of, and that is who they surveyed to get the answers to this. So about 135,000 employee drivers were included in this and about 20,000 independent contractors. So like we said, the numbers are up. Apparently, they have gone up 18% since the last survey, which was in 2019. So some points from this survey. The median truck driver earned more than $69,000 in 2021. More than 90% of truckload fleets raised their pay in 2021, with the average increase of about almost 11%. 96% of fleets offered referral bonuses for new drivers and 54% offered sign-on bonuses. And man, were some of those sign-on bonuses big. I mean, huge. They also say that every LTL company or less than truckload fleet surveyed, they raised pay also, with the median range hitting at $73,000. The median salary for a driver for a private fleet was $85,000. As we've talked about in the past, private fleets usually pay, a little bit better than public ones. As for owner-operators, they mentioned that non-drayage owner-operators, their estimated median gross revenues were $235,000, while owner-operators in the drayage sector saw median gross revenues of $164,000. So, of course, they chalk this up to the market and the way it is, hard to get drivers and all that stuff, plus the pandemic and, just lots of combinations of factors. Now, like we talked about possibly earlier in this episode, possibly later, possibly in the last episode, I can't remember because I'm getting old. Apparently, this is coming to a halt. Like, companies aren't raising their pay quite as much as they were before. There's, as we can tell from this survey, most of them have already done so, and they're kind of leveling off, because, now things are actually slowing down a little bit. So, they can't afford to be paying everybody this kind of big money. So anyway, if you're interested in the details for this study that took place, check out cdllife.com. Good news for drivers. I'd love to see it keep going up, but I think it's probably stalling out a bit. Okay, we've talked a lot about the AB5 situation going on out there in California and how it would affect the rest of the country, right? Well, this isn't exactly the same, but it's kind of related. Found this one on freightwaves.com. Schneider driver ruled an employee in federal court appeal. Okay, so in the latest infrastructure package and everything, Biden and the administration had said they wanted to look into questionable leasing practices as part of their thing. Well, that isn't exactly what this is about either, but it is, again, related. So apparently this driver, not going to name him, I don't know why, I'm just not going to name him. Anyway, he went to court and tried to say that, hey, I signed a lease with Schneider, but they treated me like an employee. I had no autonomy to do anything I wanted to do for myself, even though these things were written into the contract that he signed. That was the crux of his argument, that, hey, I signed this lease and it said that I had full, control over my livelihood, and I could accept or reject loads as I felt, but that was not actually the case of what was actually happening in real life. So a little backstory here. Back in May of 2021, a lower court sided with Schneider just basically said, got no leg to stand on here. But a higher court, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit, came down just recently completely on the driver's side. So anyway, that is basically the whole story. It's just that he won this case and, saying that Schneider's leasing, on paper, again, it looks great, but in reality, that's not the way it worked. And that is what I have feared for quite a few years, ever since I learned about lease operators and how they operated, and I'd never really heard of like a lease operator going outside of the company that they're leased to go get loads. But supposedly in a lot of these contracts that is written in, but you just never hear of it happening. And I thought, Is that just because the driver doesn't want to go look for freight elsewhere, or is it because they won't actually let you do it? And according to this court case, they are saying that that exactly was the case, that, he signed the lease and he was not allowed to do all the things he was said he was able to do. Now, I don't know. I'm not trying to badmouth Schneider here. I don't have anything against them personally, but basically with this AB5 rule, it says that you have to be, you have to have some autonomy and be able to book your own loads and stuff like that. It looks like Schneider did that right. They wrote that into their contract, but a contract is only good if you're willing to back it up. So I'm guessing the contract probably won't change a lot here with Schneider, but they will have to start obeying the contract, and they'll have to start letting more of their drivers find other loads and things like that. Either that or they risk, just maybe this AB5 thing going all the way across the country, and they might risk to, not even be able to have lease operators at all. So heads up to any company out there that has lease operators. Better watch your crap. It seems like everybody's got their eye on you, including the federal government. So anyway, there's a lot more detail about this story. If you are interested in it, head on over here to freightwaves.com. Just thought I'd give you a little heads up on that, since AB5 is everywhere right now. Onward. We've been talking about the AB5 thing going on, and that's the Assembly Bill 5 out in California. We've been talking about that for ages. But if you are still one of those people who doesn't completely understand it, you want to check out this article on landline.media. Basically, what it is a video, and it's 3 minutes, 32 seconds, and it covers exactly what the AB5 rule is and, what is going on with AB5 right now. It's very short and succinct and to the point. I guess all of those are kind of synonyms for each other, aren't they? Didn't really need to say all those words. So, like I said, nothing really to explain here. The video will explain it all. Landline.media. Well, after reading this next overdriveonline.com article, I think we may need to form a new drinking game, perhaps. Well, that last one's for Loves, in case you didn't get the joke there. That was from a couple of episodes ago. Every time a new Loves sprouts up, drink. Okay. So now, Pilot. Yeah, they've got a new thing called the New Horizons Initiative. And what this is it is a 3-year plan to upgrade fully remodel more than 400 Pilot and Flying J across the country and make additional upgrades at several more locations across the country. Wow, quite ambitious. So it looks like we will be talking about this quite a bit. And as we go along, I will update you as to which ones are updated. Now, these upgrades come anywhere from laundry facilities, upgraded kitchens, better delis, expanded beverage selections, remodeled restaurants also, new self-checkouts in certain ones. So it just varies in each one of these. If you're interested in which of these stores I'm about to name and what changes has been made, just head on over to overdriveonline.com on this one. But anyway, the 6 they list here are Bakersfield, California, Battle Creek, Michigan, Cartersville, Georgia, Corbin, Kentucky, Phoenix, Arizona, and Staunton, Virginia. All of those have had some kind of changes already taken place. Now, the most interesting thing I got out of this article was a new option that is only available right now at the Corbin, Kentucky location. And they chose that because apparently that is the very first Pilot Travel Center. Didn't know that. That was originally established in 1981, but that's the one in Corbin, Kentucky. And they have added a new concept. They call it a new Tex-Mex deli concept called Burrito Junction. They say they spent 2 years testing and fine-tuning the Make It Your Way Burrito Junction, and now they've launched the first one. Hopefully they will be adding this to a lot of their remodeled ones. Hopefully all 400, because it sounds pretty cool. I mean, the coolest thing about it, honestly, is this is now going to be 24/7 you are going to be able to get these burritos made. Now, this is customizable breakfast burritos in the morning, and you can get burritos, tacos, bowls, quesadillas with house-made guacamole, queso, salsa, and a lot of different toppings. It sounds kind of like a Chipotle or something along that lines, only in a pilot restaurant. We'll see how good this is, but anything is better than a lot of the options we have now at the truck stops. And a lot of the options now, as we all know, overnight is zilch, big fat zero, nothing. That or something off the, just yank it out of the cold case, and that's not good either. So anyway, we'll see how this goes. Anyway, somebody hurry down there to Corbin, Kentucky. I rarely get down through there, but if I do, you bet your butt I'm going to stop in here and get one of these breakfast burritos. Well, any burrito, whatever's available, whatever time I get in there, and try them out. If you get in there before me, send in a trucker grub. This will qualify. Now, normally, regular pilot, like a Subway or a McDonald's and a pilot, does not qualify for trucker grub segment, but, it's a new place. So give this burritos a try, or the quesadillas, or whatever you feel like you're in the mood for, and give us a review. And you can do that by sending me an audio clip, 3 minutes or less, to truckerdump@gmail.com. Cool. Really looking forward to these new Pilot and Flying J centers, see what they're all about. Again, check this one out on overdriveonline.com. Well, that's going to do it for this week's news, but hang on, we're not done yet.
Hey, yo, bud, where do you want this load of feedback?
Okay, I love it when I call out for some help and I get it immediately. I mentioned both of these things in the last podcast and got responses almost immediately. Okay, the first story was where I was talking about the Pennsylvania Turnpike and how insane it was getting in the prices and everything. So I heard from Trevor Dunkel, who goes by Kool-Aid Overdose over in the Trucker Dump Slack group, and he wrote, "You mentioned on this week's podcast about the toll rates rising for the PA Turnpike. The thing that bothers me as a resident of the state is that these yearly toll increases were voted on and approved by the public, and then the public complains because the tolls are increasing every year. It's like, you signed up for this, so why are you complaining?" Trevor, that is a really good point. I sometimes forget that some of these, a lot of these states are still own the turnpikes. A lot of other states, like I think Indiana is one of them, has, farmed that out. They've sold it off, and it's a private company now. So if, they raise tolls, that's just them being greedy. Well, in this case, this is the government, the state of Pennsylvania being greedy. But like Trevor said, it was the people who voted on it, and apparently they just forgot about it. I mean, these are big raises. Trevor was mentioning that he thought this took place back in the mid-2000s somewhere, and I figured it up, and sure enough, it looks like it probably happened in about 2007, because if you remember correctly, we said that this had been the 15th year in a row that the Pennsylvania Turnpike had raised their rates. And as Trevor pointed out, for instance, if you were to tell voters, hey, we're going to do a 5% increase on the toll road for the next until 2050, they'd be like, oh, well, that's not so bad. But that's year over year. Think about how many that is. I mean, I did some math here, and honestly, my math can't really be trusted. But the way I had it figured, if this happened in 2007 and it's going till 2050, that's a 43 years of a 5% increase. Now, the article actually did say it was going down to 3% and from 2027 until 2050. But let's just round it off and say 5%. That is a 215% increase over the life of that thing that you voted yes on. And as Mountain Matt pointed out in the Trucker Dump Slack group when he commented on this, that's not even counting the inflation raises and all that stuff to go along with that. So that 5% is not really 5% by the time you get to it. Man. So anyway, just a quick reminder that when you vote on things for your local, or anything really, think about the long-term ramifications, because ouch. if you remember right, $508 to go across the state of Pennsylvania if you do not have a toll pass. Yowza. So anyway, thank you, Trevor, Kool-Aid Overdose, for telling me about this, and also for Mountain Matt for weighing in on it also. Gotta love that Trucker Dump Slack group. You can join too if you just email me and ask for an invitation. truckerdump@gmail.com. And next up, we're going to hear from Bruce Phelps. Yeah, we've heard from Bruce quite a bit lately. He did a Trucker Grubs segment, and he also has written in numerous times. Well, he really pulled through on this one. If you remember in the last episode, we were talking about the ParkUnload app and how they were going to do this pilot program where there were going to be these green spaces, painted spaces in rest areas. And if you pull in there, you could download the app and say you're parked in the area, and it would pick it up that you're actually there. It would register your time, how long you were there, when you left. That way it would be free for the next person. And they're trying to figure out a way to make parking more transparent, so it's not so hard to try to find parking late at night, or any time for that matter. Well, Bruce ran across one of these places. Bruce writes, "Here's something you talked about in one of your podcasts. As you know, I'm not good at episode numbers." Yeah, he did mess up an episode number last time. For the record, Bruce, this one is episode 168. Not that you're going to remember. Anyways, he says, the parking app you mentioned experiment in Iowa and other states, Wisconsin, I believe. Yes, you are correct. Well, I am at Iowa rest area, westbound, just shy of Altoona. And Altoona is just east of Des Moines. And he says, as we email, I am on one of these spots. I downloaded the app and signed up. Anyways, can't stay, but thought you might be interested. I will send a couple of photos of the rest area and a screenshot of the app working on my phone, which he did. So the photo is exactly like you would expect. It is a bunch of parking spots. They say technology test on them, and it is really big. Like the entire parking space is painted green with white lettering on it, so it cannot be missed. There's even signage up in the rest area. So the sign says truck parking technology test. It says to download the app and follow steps to park. It gives you a QR code, so you can just scan that QR code and it'll take you right to the app in whatever app store you have. If you have an iPhone, it'll take you to the app store, and Android, it'll take you to that app store, and you can download the app right there. And the screenshot he sent of the phone itself just shows, where you're at, the start time that you got there, the time you were there, the total amount of authorized time, which shows 20 hours. I don't know if that's going to be, full time, but it shows he's got 19 hours, 59 minutes, and 43 seconds. So he stayed there a whopping, 17 seconds. And then there's a stop parking button at the bottom when you leave. Pretty darn simple. So that would open it up for the next person. So this is really cool. I'm glad Bruce was able to find this so darn fast and send me some photos of it. I'll tell you what, if you want to see the photos of this, just head on over to abouttruckdriving.com, search for TD168, and I will put these in the show notes, okay? It's sad that I have to lure you to the website with photos, but, got to do what I got to do. Got to get those stats up, All right. Anyway, thanks for this, Bruce. Really appreciate it. So that's going to do it for listener feedback for this week. Big thanks to Travis, Matt, and Bruce, all for weighing in. And we're back down to inbox 0 for listener feedback. So if you have something to say, comment on the show, suggestions, critiques, praise, whatever you want to do, send it in to truckerdump@gmail.com. Text is fine. Audio, of course, is preferred. And it's not that hard. I guarantee you somewhere on your phone you have a voice memo app. You just open it. Well, you turn off your truck first. Then you open it. You hit record. You speak into the microphone. You stop recording. And then you hit the share button and send it off to truckerdump@gmail.com. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Okay? All right. Well, I don't know about you, but this whole week just feels craptastic to me. So, quite frankly, I'm glad to be done with it. So here's to hoping you had a better week than I just had. Although, I can't say this week has been completely horrible because, hey, I got out another podcast and it's sponsored by Porter Freight Funding. You can learn more at porterfreightfunding.com/truckerdump or give them a call at 205-397-0934. So with that bit of bitness out of the way, let's get out of here. You know what would be better than a basket full of kittens? You going over to abouttruckdriving.com to learn about everything I do, including a 60-foot trailer's worth of past episodes, including show notes with links, all my social media and contact info, and the 5-star rated How to Find a Great Truck Driving Job and Trucking Life ebook combo pack. And speaking of 5-star reviews, you can leave one for the show by clicking on the link in the show info part of the show notes, which again can be found at abouttruckdriving.com. As always, thanks for listening and following the show. I truly appreciate you giving me just a little bit of your time every week. So until next time, drive safe and stay out of my way. It says the recall was issued due to a defect within the engine control module, which may experience an internal short circuit. Wow. Saying what it is, it says truck parking technology test. Download the app and follow steps to park. Shut up, computer. Quit beeping at me. Turn on focus mode, Todd. Why did you not do that? Because I'm not focused, apparently. Back to it. Well, no surprise here, but just a biddy. Also, a major pain in the butt is any carrier who has employees is going to have to totally Well, that's going to do it for the news for this episode, but of course, we've got some listener feedback to go with. That's dumb. And as I just spoke about, nowadays, and as I spoke about in the last recall, so with that bit of bitness out.